All right, so I'll kind of just start going over everything here. So last time we were in the middle of working on the end of our C++ tutorial, so I'll just start to pull that up. And then for everyone who wasn't here the last time, we kind of just went over the basics of C++, so if you don't know, you could always go back and watch it. But a lot of the things that we'll be going over in Python now relate to C++, so you'll definitely, the only thing that'll be different is kind of the syntax and how you write it, but the same concepts are the same, so
I'm gonna turn off the front.
oh yeah, that's a good idea. So yeah, even though if you weren't here yesterday, you'll still get, I mean last week, you'll still get the main concept. So I'll just open up the project from last week. Oh, actually, that was the one on my own computer. So I'll just open up the other project. Project or solution. All right, so we were finishing up the calculator. We just went over a recursion, which is pretty nice, pretty powerful. And then we just finished going over functions right before that. So to include everything into the calculator, we'll take that out. And it's not, for everyone who wasn't here, it's not really a calculator. It's just kind of the trickier functions that you wouldn't want to have to do in your head. So like a factorial, a slope, and the other one's going to be a midpoint. So yeah, so we have those functionalities for that, and then the main is kind of nothing's going on there yet. So the next thing that we'll need to do, since we know we want to do midpoint, is include the midpoint. So the type will be float because it's not going to be an integer value that's returned all the time. If you're taking the midpoint, it could be some sort of decimal. So type integer would only return to you an integer, whereas we want the decimal. So we'll use type float and a pointer because we're going to return an array of an x and a y. So. And then we're going to want to, float. We're going to want to as well include float. And we're going to want, for the arguments, is 0.1. We could even just make it a little more clear, pt1. And then for the argument, the other argument is going to be 0.2, because usually that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking the midpoint between 2 points given to us. Yeah, so then I'm going to think we would want some sort of temporary to kind of store the answer that we get when we do this calculation. So I'll do a temp, and it's going to be equal to a float, a new float 2. And that's just saying that the pointer that we create is going to be accessing. It's going to act like an array, so it's allocating two memory spaces with type float that are going to be stored as an array. So they're going to be accessible by this pointer. So then what we want the temp to be equal to, so we could do temp equals, and then it's going to be the midpoint is going to be pt1, and then it's going to be in the second spot plus pt2, and that's actually going to be zeros. We're going to do the x first, convention, divided by 2. And you're going to have to put parentheses around this just because C++ reads left to right. This one's going to be 0 as well if we want the x values. And then, again, we're going to do 0.1, and we're going to want the y's this time. And then we're going to divide, there it is. Divide by 2 again to get the, and then we are getting an error because, let's see. Did I close it? open, close. Well, we can just do this then. If it's not letting us do that, temp O equals delete, and then temp 1 equals, and then we will return temp, and they're of the same type. They're both floats and pointers, so that will return correctly. Now that I see this, we could probably even do a loop, because didn't. We go int I equals 0, I is less than 2, I plus plus, from our loops that we did last week. And then we'll just put I in here, I in here, and I in here. It saved, might have created one more line, but you know, it's always best, you could have it. Yeah, so we're just going to create it's going to return an array, so we would want a floater pointer, and then we'll call that midpoint because that's what we're trying to solve for, and it's going to take in 2 points, point 1 and point 2. Again, they're going to be arrays, so throw them in as pointers. And then we get the x value is going to be stored at 0, and then the y value is going to be stored at 1. So the loop is going to loop through, and it's going to say, so the temp, the first one, which is going to be 0, so the x's, so the value that's going to be stored at the temp point for the x, so when this is 0, it's going to be the midpoint between the two x's, and then when it turns into 1 after it loops through the one time, I is going to now be a 1, so then we're going to add the y's and then divide by 2 as well, and store that into temp for the y, temp 1, and then we're going to return that. So right now we have everything we need. We have the slope, the midpoint, and the vectorial. We're only going to do 3 because I don't want to go over a lot of other functions. So,
sorry, Zach.
Yep.
I was downloading the Visual Studio and it gave me a whole bunch of options. Should I just all complete it now?
That's on 13, 14, 15. So, yeah. You could just follow along because we won't be using Visual Studios for that much longer. The tutorial, we're just gonna. I'll ask you at the end. Yeah, and then we could go over it at the end. All right, so then this is just to make it look nice and pretty. So then just say it's gonna be the calculator app. So we're gonna use that, and then we're gonna do enter 1 for if you want the slope. Enter 2 if you want midpoint. And enter 3 if you want factorial. And then that should be good. I think and then we're going to want to give them a choice of which one they want. And then cin, and then we'll do choice, and then we have to define choice, and we'll define it as a character, even though we'll be taking we'll do an int choice, yep, and then, so then we'll get rid of these, and we don't need these because we're including the namespace. So then what's going to happen right now is it's going to loop through. One second. So it's going to at first display this, and then if you choose 1, 2, or 3, and then you'll take in that value with cin and you'll store it into choice. So in order to if we ran this right now, we would just get 5, and then it would just kind of finish the program. So we could do what we did before with the dummy variable to wait till the user enters some character and hits enter to exit the program. But instead, we're going to want to keep doing this. Since it's a calculator, we don't want them to only be able to do it once. We're going to want to have them do it multiple times until they feel like they want to quit. So in that case, there's 2 options you could use. You could use a while loop and then just set choice equal to 0 off the bat. But what I tend to do in these is, because I know I definitely want it to at least show to the user one time, is I will do a nope, just regular tab. I'll do a do while loop. So a do while loop is just going to, instead of a while loop where it checks it at the top, it's just going to check it at the bottom. So, and we're going to say as long as choice doesn't equal 0, keep looping back. And then the only thing that's really confusing about this is you need the semicolon at the end. It's the only loop that you kind of need a semicolon at the end of the syntax of it. So yeah, so this will run through, and it'll keep prompting the user to pick one of them until they pick 0 or a number that's not there. So we'll start to do that functionality right now. So we'll do if choice equals 1, and then we'll add the or symbol, choice equals 2. We will want to it'll do 1 or 2. The reason that I'm including them together and not including factorial is because both slope and midpoint are going to want 2 points. So it's better to include them together so you don't have to rewrite most of the code twice. And then at the end, you're going to separate the 2 between 1 and 2. So we'll get into that right now. So we will declare 2 points. So we'll do point 1. We have to do float point. Let's make it an array. Point 1 equals new float 2, and then float point 2, not right, new float 2, and then we're going to want to prompt the user to enter the numbers. So x is going to be, we're going to say x coord point 1, and then cin point 1 0, and then cout. And I'm just going to copy and paste this because we're going to want the y and then the x and the y the other one as well. So change this to y, change this one to y, change this one to 2, change this one to 2, and then we'll go 1, 2, 1. Alright, so then that prompts the user to enter all the values that you'll need. So then we'll distinguish between, so as long as if choice equals 1, we will want to do the slope with point 1 and point 2. And that's an error because there's an array. So let's just make those. Let's just make those, and that should be fine. And now that should have been fine. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Oh, because I named them differently. So the other one would have worked as well. 0.1, 0.2, right? Let's see, 0.1, 0.2, the error is argument float is incompatible with int. Oh, because I defined them as ints up here. Yeah, let's do that. So instead of floats, we'll only have them enter integer coordinates, because otherwise you have to change the whole other function. All right, that works. And then else if choice equals 2, and then we'll do the midpoint. So I'm just going to copy that and do midpoint, but midpoint takes in, so we will go float. All right, and why not make this a float? Solve all our problems. Makes sense. And then this one has to be a float. All right, so then everything will work out. And now we want to go to this if statement right here, and then do else if choice equals 3. We want a number in num, cout, cin, num, and then we'll go factorial, and then we'll pass in num. All right, so that's good, and then we just have to make the case for if they enter anything other than what we specified. Else choice equals 0, because we want them to just exit the loop. Yeah, so if we run this, it should work out pretty well. Let's try it. Yeah, let's build it. All right, so which one do we want? Let's go slope first, and then we'll do something, so 4, 4, and let's do 8, 8. Oh, we don't print out that's what, okay. So then we're gonna want to print these out. So that's where it goes. Cout, whatever we get, and then we'll cout, and L. And why not just put answer? Answer. And we'll just copy and paste that in front of all of them. All right. And all right. Cool. Hopefully now we're good. All right, slope. I'll do the same thing, 4, 4, and 8, 8. And it gives us an error, so let's try 2 though. All right, so midpoint, we'll do 4, 4 as well, and then 8, 8. And we get another error. All right, let's hope this one doesn't, and we get 120. All right, cool. All right, so let's try to find out where those are. It's probably between, so I bet if I do this though, let's try that. One of them will work. So we'll do slope 4, 4. And that one didn't work. 2. Let's see if this one works. 4, 4. Neither of them are working. All right. And I know why one of them is not working. I think for this one we have to try that. And then, well, let's just try that. So that one is 2. 2, 4, 4, 8, 8. Does that make sense, Matt? I don't think so. Should be
Should be 6. Well, you should get 2 numbers.
for midpoint.
For X and Y.
Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, that's what it is.
You need one of them correctly.
That's what it is. All right, so it's an array. So we need to store that. So we'll go float, and then we'll call this one temp as well, equals this. That's what it is. Good work, Matt. You get a gold star. Temp, O, and then temp 1. And then we'll close it off. And then this one will go like this. That should be good. All right, let's look at that. All right, 2. And we get 6 and some random number. Let's figure that out.
You go up to where you specify point 1, point 2, you've got it up there, up a bit more.
Yep.
Point 1, point 1, point 2, point 1.
Point, yep, that's the problem. Thank you. And then we'll figure, let's try that. That could be the problem for the other one as well. 2, let's try 4, 4, 8, 8, 6, 6. That one works. Good catch. And then let's try this one. 4, 4, 8, 8, and then the answer is 1. That seems right to me. All right, good catch. So all right. So then if we want to do factorial again, we put 5, and then we get 120. And if we want to quit, we do 5. Perfect. Copy and paste there. Sons of guns. All right. Cool. So that's a calculator. And then if we want to, and then we'll go into classes really quick before we move on to the next topic. Right before we move on to Python, so everyone else can join in. So let's go here, file, new, project, we'll browse, and then we'll go to D, documents, CPP, live, and I'll act like it was still in here, new folder, we'll call it address book. Let's do that really quick. Select folder. And then, why not?
So is this editor you're using, is this Atom?
This one is Visual Studios, and then I'll go to Atom.
Visual Studio.
Yeah, just for C++. Atom and I'm not sure how to compile and build them within Atom, but for all the other languages like Python and then Node.js, which we'll get to as well, I use those for Python for that. All right, so then we'll use a new item. And then I will, new item, we'll call this one address book add. All right, so the reason to do classes would be, so arrays are nice because related things, you're able to kind of access them easily with a for loop. You don't have to redeclare a lot of variables. You can just say your groceries and then start listing groceries. But if you have multiple things that relate, classes come in handy there. And then when you have functions that, along with everything that relates, only act on them, it kind of keeps everything nice and tidy so that you don't accidentally access the function through just accidentally access it. So that would be the reason to use classes. So we'll go over those here in a second. So the main thing that we're going to do is we're going to start an address book, as the title says, and then we're going to get a name of the person, their number, and their email, and then spit that back. And then choices to add, retrieve all, get all, and to get one. So those are the things that we'll be going over. So you could create an array that has a name, all the numbers, and all the emails, and then kind of keep appending to all of those arrays, but it's nice to keep those into nice class. So like every computer program that we've done in this class, we'll just do include, and then we'll do IOStream, and then we'll include the string as well. And then we're also going to include one more that we haven't talked about, and that's just because they're a lot easier than arrays, vector. And then using std, and then main. So yeah, the only thing that we haven't seen is the vector, and vectors are really just physics and chemistry. They're just kind of, they're similar to an array. You can have points, it has direction and whatnot, but in this case they're just very similar to arrays, and they're a lot easier to work with because they're their own library. You can add to them very easily, whereas adding to an array is creating your own way to add to an array is a longer process. Deleting indices from arrays is a long process. The vector class kind of just provides all those for you right off the bat. They also include a nice way to iterate through with a for loop that's a little shorter than what we've been using. So to start off a class, you just start class, and then we're going to name ours just person, and then we're going to have a private and a public. So the reason to do private and public is similar to what I was saying with the functions, that you kind of you don't want to access certain functions outside of where they should be accessed. So the person, if I was say to get name, and then if I also wanted to get a pet's name, if I had a class that was pet, you didn't want that those names to interfere, but they're both descriptive names for that class. So similar to private and public, you don't want code down here kind of randomly accessing certain variables that you'll keep within your class. So it's always nice to keep them in the private, and then kind of more use public functions to access the private variables. So we'll get into that. So we're going to need a string name because we'll be adding those. And then we're going to need string, and then we'll do a number. The number could be stored as an integer, but for all purposes, we'll just store them as a string. And then an email. So those are the things we'll need. And then we'll have we need to create person, and then tilde person. It's giving me an error, and I'm curious. Person with string name, I'll just cut it short, string num, and string mail. Oh, I know why they're giving errors. And then we're going to want a string because it's going to return the name, string get name. We don't really want to set, but if you wanted to set something, you could do string void set name, and then you'd be able to put string in here. But we won't go over that, but that's the way you would do it. And get and set are kind of the go-to for these. They're an industry standard. And then number, and then string get number, get email. All right. So those, and then so before we declared functions up top, but when you have a class, it's nice to keep the class nice and short. Later, we probably won't go over it in this series, but usually it's even nicer to keep classes within their own files. But just to keep the main function kind of the only thing, along with the libraries that you include within the main CPP file. But it's not really necessary to complete a task, so I probably won't go over it. But when you have classes, it's definitely nice to kind of leave these short. you're getting green lines because it can't find it, but C++ is nice because before it gets to the main, it will go over all of these, and then it'll kind of ask itself, it's like, okay, the person says that these things are here, but I haven't found definitions for these yet. So what it'll do is instead of the main, it will look past the main and look for these names, and we'll see that right here. So these ones are constructor, a destructor, and another constructor. So when you create a class, you have to initialize the variables in some way. The person, so that it's just, and there's no type, it's just the name of the class, and then with the curly brackets, and the initializer can either take in values or it doesn't have to take in values, and the destructor, it just cleans up your code, so you need to have it. And then sometimes when we're working with arrays and whatnot, it'd be nice to delete the arrays in that constructor, but the class then, when the object is not in use anymore, when you delete the object, the destructor will fire, and then it will start to clean up your class. So we'll get to describing these. So person, then we'll set the name equal to, I like to just set them to none. You could set them, I don't like to set them to null, but name, number, and email. So, and then I'll do that as well. And then the destructor, you can just leave, there we go, person, and then you could just tilde person, and then you could just leave that, there you go, you can just leave it like that. We aren't going to put anything in there. And then for the other functions, we're going to do person, and then get name, and then we're going to want to return name. This class is very simple, but it's good. It kind of sets everything up pretty nice for you to know how to do it. Yeah, you definitely need to. There you go. Person, and then we'll do get email. And then we'll just fill those in. So this one is return number, and then this one is return email. So if you set those up as public variables, you would just be able to access them, but this is technically the way to do it. I still can't find that, and that's because I haven't done that. So then we'll declare the next initializer, and then we'll just do string name, string num, that's string mail, and then we're going to set name equal to name equal to num, and mail equal to mail. So that would be how you would set your class, and then now we'll start using it. So let's go over a quick example before we go over the entirety of what the address book is going to do. So similar to how if you had int x and you set it equal to 0, the int is the type, x is the variable name, and then the value is 0. So when you use a class, again, the class name is going to be your type. Variable can be anything, so I'll use myself. And then you can either set it equal or use that, but I'll show you both ways. So person, and then you could do Zach, and then something at gmail.com. And then if I wanted to see out Zach.getName, and then if I run this, see Zach. So what's going on? You said it's just like every other variable that we've kind of used before, except you're kind of creating your own class. So it's the type, and then you set it equal to a person, and then we use this constructor down here. So now if we wanted to set it equal to a person, we should get none. So let's see that. None. So that is using, instead of the constructor that we filled, it's using the default constructor. And then the other way to set this up, I should have left that. Zach. And then, again, this will work the same, so it'll be lowercase this time, but, yep. So there you go. Well, look at that. Yeah, so that would be another way to set up your, when you initialize your variable of a certain class. So this, that is how you would use class. So then I'll get rid of this. And then I'll just go over vector really quick. So vector, the syntax for it is kind of annoying, but this is it. Numbers, and that would be a vector, and then you could use it just like an array. One other good thing about it is if you want to initialize 100 zeros, that's how you would do it. So instead of having, well, if it's just 0, you could initialize an array pretty easily to that, 100 of them easily to that, but that's how you do it. But you could also use for or whatever. So they're nice. You can initialize them right off the bat. Actually, I'll leave that up. And then the other thing is that instead, when we had for int I equals 0, blah blah blah. The nice thing about vectors is this is, and then you do numbers. Cout, cout, and so then it'll just kind of, here, I'll change these to fours. It'll loop through 100, and it should just print out 100 fours. So that is, instead of having to do all the longhands, it's going to numbers, and it's looking at each element of number, and then now I is going to be that value of number. We'll see how that works with classes. It's basically the same thing. Except we just have to call the functions when we want the desired values from that class. So those are vectors. They're nice. So then if we want a person vector, there you go. And then we will call it person, people, why not? And then we don't need this because we're going to use our do while loop again. So yeah, so we're going to use our do while loop. So do. We'll see out. Jeez, I wish I left that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15. Address. Let's leave that. Address book. Book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And and then I'll just do another end could have been another line. This is again just for formatting. And then we'll do 1. Add person. And then 2. Get all. Show all. And then 3, get by name. And that'll be good. And then I'm just going to jump here. And then we're going to paste that down here. And then 2 endos. And then choice. Yeah. So currently, the last week we set up and I should have said that in the beginning as well. Let's go here. So GitHub, and then it'll take me to mine, and then this one. Yeah, so on GitHub, it's also linked in the videos. I also have a Google Calendar that they'll link right to this branch repository for my GitHub. So then the last time we left off, it was here with the slope and the factorial. So I could send an email out with the link to it as well, and then I'll update it after.
That would be great because I missed everything last week.
Yeah, no problem. I figure, people will be going back and forth, either watching these online or coming in and out. So, they'll be up there. I'll keep updating it.
I was going to start sending out an email every week too with a link to or at least one after today with the link and everything. We have you guys, and then I know Morgan's gonna like I'll send stuff out.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. That would be
great.
I needed to know who was coming in order to have an email list.
Yeah.
I kind of know what he's doing here with the programming, but all the setup with the, having Visual Studio in, Atom and everything.
That's probably actually the hardest part. Programming, once you know one, you know them all, but how you set it up it makes an impact. All right, so where is that error? Oh, close bracket, people. All right, so then we will go to if choice, and then we'll just do equals 1. And then we're going to do something, and then else if choice. Nope. Choice equals 2, and then I'll just do one more for the third. Oh, then I have to do the containing 3, and then there it is. All right. So do, and that's why. So then, which one is this? That is going to our while. So do while. Do while choice doesn't equal 0, and I put choice in the loop. Alright, just don't do that. Alright, and alright, now we will start to work with our person vector named people. So people, if we want to add one, we will go people, and then dot push back, I believe, or add. We'll see. It doesn't have push back. And then we're going to put some stuff in there. But before we do that, we need to do cout. And then we'll do name, and then cin name. We'll have to define all these. Cout number, cin number, cout email, and then cin email. Alright, so then we'll define all of those. So string for them all. Name, string number, string email. Alright, and then push back, and then we'll do person and name, number, email. And let's see, or is it add? Append? And let's check. I did this before. Documents, CPP, local, class 1 project, open this up. Yep. Studios. push underscore back. Tricky. Alright, and then it should be good, but we're still getting a weird error. People. There we go. And then if you spelled it right, it actually might, the editor might, yep, so there you go. That's how you don't have to really memorize them. Push back, person, and then you need one more. And there you go. So then every time you put something in, it will append to the people, adding one every time pretty easily. So if you were to use arrays, that would have been a lot harder. Even easier if I remembered what pushback was. And then so then we're going to show all of them. So we're going to use our handy dandy new way to iterate through a vector. So we'll use, and then we'll use people, and then we will see out I dot get name, I dot get number, and I dot get email. And then you need to also add in their function, so you have to add in those parentheses there. And then I'll also so then for every person, it's going to iterate through, and it's going to see out. It's going to look at, so it's going to, depending on how many people you have, you'll go through to the first person, and then it will access that person's .get name, .get number, .get email, and so then it will just kind of have name, email, number. So you could even make it better. And actually, I'll just put a space. And actually, let's just put spaces in between. And then one more. All right, so then I would put a space in between so we could kind of see them all. So then next is we're going to want to get a person by name. So something you can do, which we're not going to do, but it's always nice when somebody enters a name to, well, at least a username, but in this case there's going to be a lot of Zachs, but usernames usually typically like to have only one, and then you'll put it into all caps, so no matter what form they enter, you'll be able to get it back. But in this case, it's going to be case sensitive, so it was just something to know as we do this. And then we'll do people, and then we will if I dot get name equals, and then before this we're going to have input, so equals name. Then we're going to want to see out all the information. And then before this we're going to go see out name, cin, name, string, name. And then it should return, for everyone, it should return whatever name you put in there, all of the information, the number, the email, what have you. All right, so let's run it. Went through it pretty quick, so cross your fingers. All right, so let's add a person. Name, Zach, number, 123, 123, 1234, and an email at gmail.com. All right, so then we'll show all, and then there's Zach, so we'll add another just to be sure. We'll go with Matt, and then 123, 123, 123, and then let's go to Gmail at gmail.com. And then we'll do show all again, and then there's Zach and Matt. And then if we wanted to go 3, and then we type in Matt. And then if we wanted to do it again and type in Zach. Yeah, so that is this basic address book using a class. All right, so that'll be it for C++. I'm doing pretty good on time. And now we'll kind of switch gears. That's finishing up. I had high expectations for the first day, apparently, but I'll just exit that out, and then I'll upload that later. So then the next couple, we will download Python and Atom. So Elizabeth, did you download this? Did you download these?
No, I was not.
Sorry, informed of it?
No, I knew it, but then I didn't really know what to Google, and then, yeah.
No problem.
So it's it.
Matt, did you download it? And then you got both of them and you installed Python? Nice. All right, cool. So Elizabeth, I'll leave this up here for you for a little bit. So then Python.
I need that too.
Ooh.
Python.org.
Yeah. Oh, it might actually be quick.
Particular variation of Python version.
They all should be pretty good, but I used just the 3 version, 3.6.4, just because. But yeah, all Pythons are pretty good. I would either get the first within 3.5 and up, or if you're on 2.7, I would get the latest 2.7.
Why would you go to the 2 version? I mean, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. People still like it, but yeah, they keep doing small updates to it. But yeah, 3 is definitely more advanced and where they're going to take off pretty soon. To download which one? Python?
Yeah.
Downloads at the top there, and then download Python 3.6.4. So a little bit on Python while Elizabeth is downloading it. Comparatively to C++, it's got a lot of overhead. So in the last class I gave a car situation. So C++ is the fast coupe with just one person in it. And then Python, it has a lot of overhead. So though it will give you a lot and make a lot of things so much easier, it's not as fast. It's not going to be as fast as C++. I found some issues with especially recursion within Python, but you can always get around it with a loop. The best positive for it is that it's fast. You get so many things provided for you right off the bat. The community for Python is great. To include libraries like something to analyze images, or recently with Tensorflow, which is a Google-made platform for machine learning. The only way you can train it is through Python. So you can utilize the trained versions in C++ and another program language called Go, but the only way to train it is within Python. So a lot of people are using it. I think it because of the ease of being able to include and being able to include a library and then also get that library from anywhere by using something called pip that we'll go over in not this class but the next class. So it just makes a lot of things a lot easier, but it is slower. And then including it onto like an ARM chip into some sort of device would be near impossible. So Raspberry Pi also uses Python a lot, so that's super nice for that. Yeah, so those are a couple of the positives. So then what is different about it? So if you want to create a new folder, so for me I went to Documents and then CPP and then Live, and then I just created interesting. Oh, I created it on my local, so why not? Let's just do it here. So part 2. And let's do that. Part 2. And then we'll open that within Atom. Matt, when you open Atom, does everything open all right? Add project folder. I do not want to do that. Select folder. All right. So we have 2 class 2s. That's great. Let's just delete that. Yeah. Come on. Add project folder. Let's try one more time. Oh, that's why. So I'm in local still. So live. Then part 2. Man, there we go. Part 2. There we go. Let me know when you have it up. And then let's continue.
Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Okay. And then just right click on, for me it's a sidebar. And then I would say add project folder. And then if you created a new folder, use that folder as everything you'll put your Python files into. What?
I don't have the sidebar.
Let me see.
I have the whole big click as you open a project.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, yours will actually have it up there.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so it should be add project folder, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I put a lot of GUIs on mine, themes, to make it look pretty, but they are not useful. And then right-click the folder when you bring it up, and then just hit New File, and then I'll call this, so we'll make a calculator again. And just so everybody can. And then, yeah, so just right-click the folder, and then call it calculator.py. And then hit enter. And you'll have it, and then if you open up, that's the one we're on. It's green because it's not added to my GitHub yet, but colors don't really matter. But mine has a nice icon to label it as a Python file. So what makes Python different than C++ is that variables in C++ we would do int, and then we would do like some number equals 0. Good things and bad things about the syntax of it, and then you also have a semicolon at the end. Is this is how you would do the same exact thing. So it would be, you don't need a variable type, you just need a name and then assign it to a value. The one thing about it though is that once you assign it to a value, it knows that type to be an integer. So if I put a string here and I said 0, no semicolon, if I said and then that equals Bob or something, and I save it, and then if I wanted to add them together, though you'd never specified a type, you can't add these two together. I won't run this program, but I'll run a similar program to that just to demo that, but just quick talk about it. Another thing about it is technically there's no main function, though you can include a main function. And we'll see how to do that in a second, but the first demo I'll run is I'll just do number equals 0, and then we don't have to include a library or a namespace or anything for print. You just get that right off the bat. Very nice. And then we'll just print number. No semicolon. And then if you travel to your command line, there we go. And for me, it's in D, CPP, document, C, CPP, and then C, live, C, part 2. Yep. All right. So then, for me, if I run calculator.py, and you need Python to do that. So Python number. Yeah. Spelling is useful. Yeah, so then if you run that, and then you'll get 0. So there's no main function. If you run a specific Python program, it will just kind of go top to bottom. And I like that actually about it. But sometimes it's useful to have a main function, so you yourself, it kind of organizes things more. And in that case, we're going to see kind of a weird name. equals equals underscore underscore main underscore underscore, and then I will go main, and then you have to define your function up here, so def main, and then number equals 0, print the number. That might work, but we'll go with this. All right, so then this will just do the same exact thing that we've done before, except now there's a main function. And what this name is, when you can include multiple Python programs into your own Python. So if I had, say I had something over here, if I created a new file and I just said add.py, and then I will use that for addition in a calculator, I could do to include, kind of like the include in C++, well, almost identical, import and then add. That'll import this, and if we didn't have this main function, and if I put a main function in here, main lets you know what program you're specifically running. So if I ran calculator through the Python terminal like I did here, if I ran Python calculator, if add had a main, name wouldn't equal main. So I could even show you that to kind of better illustrate what this is. So let's see, import add. Yeah, so let's try to run that. So, and I printed name, right? Okay, sweet. So print, so it should print number and it should print main. Yeah, so, and then if I print main, name in here, well, we know name is main because it set it equal to it. But if I do it here before it gets there, it should print that out. So, yeah, see, so it equals main. And that just means, and if I ran add.py, now that's just main. We didn't include calculator, so it's not even seeing that code, but before it was add and now it's main. So it just means whichever Python file you are running will obtain the name main. So that is what that is. But the nice thing about it is you're allowed to include a main function then if it's the main file, and then it kind of keeps everything organized similar to C++. So I'll kind of get rid of the add. I don't need to get rid of it, but I just want to use it. So then we will continue. So that's how you define integers and strings, characters, booleans. So booleans would be like is bool. Again, you can name it whatever you want, but just definitive to me. And then they're capitalized, no semicolon like before, so true, false. And then, so then if we wanted our list of groceries, we will do, this would be how you create an array. So it would just be apple, orange, and I probably need, well, I did oats last time, which is a funny name, but yeah, so then that's how you do it. So initializing a array in C++, if you were to do it right from the line you initialize your variable, it would be use a curly bracket, but in this case we use an angle bracket. So that's how you would do that. Well, I mean, while I have this here, I might as well go over for. So for loops are also, it's similar to the iterator actually that we use for vector. They don't, you can use I, but it's not I equals 0, comma, I is less than something. Actually what you do if you wanted to use I is I in range is provided to you, range, and then it's 0. Or you could actually just, if you're starting from 0, you could just use 10, and that'd be your ending one. And then there's no, if you can tell, there's no brackets. They use colons, and then you have to indent your next line forward. Don't use tab. If you do tab and 4 spaces, I've gotten a complaint from compiler saying your indents are off. One of your indents are off. So then you have to go throughout your whole program. Some IDEs, though, if you tab, it will just do the 4 spaces, which is nice. I think Adam would actually do that for you, but just something to keep in mind. So then if there's only 3 though, so let's use 3. So let's see, and then we will print groceries, and then we will do I. And then this will, if we go back here, we run it. Well, not Python, add Python calculator. Apple, oranges, oats. So print also always will do a end line. Unlike C++, the C out, it won't end your line. The print is going to end your line. Yeah, so that's that for arrays. It's very similar. So if I actually wanted to do cars, actually I'll do this, yeah. So cars, and then I'll do Jeep, Ford, Chevy. Wonder what the hell I have in common. And then yeah, so then you declare those, and then you wanted to again do, if you wanted to add them together, you would do this, cars, I, and then if you went to your command line and ran it, you get Apple, Jeep, Orange, Ford. Yeah, kind of pretty intuitive. But there was something else. The next thing, what was I going to do? Well, the next thing I will do is that actually the better thing to do, and for these at least, when you're just working with one, so if you saw with how I had cars, if you wanted to access 2 arrays at once and you wanted both the indices, well, first off, you should probably make a class, but if you really needed that, you would do a for loop with i's, and then you would access the same indice every time. But in this case, if you're just using one array, you can do grok in groceries, or I could use grocery even, why not? That makes sense. Well, I can't spell, so we're sticking with grok. So grok in groceries. And then it would just print the same as we did before, which I really like. It's kind of how you would think for, like, if I could spell groceries correctly, if I could spell grocery, then it would be like, okay, well, what grocery items are in groceries? So, well, you get there and you go, okay, and then you kind of just list them all off. So I really like it in that sense. And then if you did car, so plural forms are kind of the way to name arrays, just for this, is that when you do this, it makes it just really intuitive for car and cars. It's really, it can't get much better than that. And then you would print it out. So then, yeah, so that's super nice. So then the next thing that isn't really in C++, but it's in a lot of other programming languages, including Python, would be a dictionary. So a dictionary is similar. So if I wanted to say, let's do phone number, similar to address books, we'll make another address books, and then we're going to actually make a dictionary. So phone numbers, and then we'll do Zach's is 65. What? You don't know the rest of them? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go to Matt. Hey Matt, what's your phone number? I'm just playing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Liz, and hers is going to be 555. All right, so then, and then if I wanted to do well, if we do well, let's just do this first. So what's nice is then you could print out, if somebody was like, well, what's Zach's phone number? Phone numbers, and then Zach. And then you can just, and then if you come back down and you print it, and it'll just give you the phone number of Zach. So it's really nice when you have 2 things compatible. You can use arrays within dictionaries as well. So we're kind of, if you really didn't want to create a whole class, dictionaries are nice in-betweeners. like you're storing two things here with a class. We just need the email. So even if I did this, so if I did Zach, and then email here, email.gmail, email at gmail.com. And then if I did Zach, and then I did, hold on, for item is my go-to for if it's not pluralized, and if it doesn't really make sense, like phone numbers doesn't make sense for a number and an email, so I use item. So for print, so what this is gonna, gotta close those. And then so what this is gonna do is it's gonna go to Zach, and it's going to see that they're like an array, just like we did with an array. So it might be a little complex, but if you just look at this portion right here, it's the only thing that we're really using. And then it will just be like, okay, well then it should print out 655 and email at Gmail. So if we do that, yep. So you can also store. So this kind of takes our address book, and we're gonna make one. But as you see, there's a nice workaround. A lot of things are less clear for other people. It's clear. Sometimes it's clear to you. Like if you just put a comment up here, like also comments in Python are hashtags. Hashtag bless up. And yeah, so if you said first indice indict is number and second is email, then you could kind of get away with it, but I wouldn't do this. But if you're just doing coding for yourself, you're not really handing it in or anything, it's short, it's to the point, and you kind of work yourself way around the class. Another thing is, as if you could see with these two, is they don't have to be the same. Like this is not the dictionary kind of is varying what types of things are assigned to what other types of things. Like this one's just a string. This one's an array of strings. And I could probably put zeros all here and it wouldn't really care. Python is really nice in that way. C++, it's nice to know a lot of the time when something in your code is different than something else. But like say I didn't really want Matt's email. Then this would be nice. In C++, you could obviously set it to like a undefined or some number that you know is not an email, like before when I used none. But in this case, there's definitely benefits to that, to using a dictionary. So this one's called calculator, so we'll jump right into calculator. The tutorial for Python is going much faster because it is, once you know C++, they're interchangeable, and it's much quicker to type Python code. So then we'll do def factorial, and like I said, well, you need your arguments, and we'll get those arguments. Def, we'll do slope, and then def and midpoint. And we'll put our arguments in there for a second. Yeah, so we'll do that. Okay, so we'll do point pt1, pt2, and then we will just do 1, 2, 3, 4, return, pt1, 0, oh, no, y's are on top, plus pt2, 1 divided by, and definitely a minus, isn't it? Yep. Don't tell the math department. PT 1, 0 minus PT 2, 1. Yeah, so a couple of things to note here. We didn't have to declare that these are arrays, and then we were just able to access them like arrays. A lot Python in creative writing right now, in poetry, the teacher tells you kind of leave things up to the reader. It does that for you. It just leaves it up to you. It's like, well, you're accessing it like an array. I'm going to treat you like an adult. I'm going to assume that you don't declare your indices wrong, and then and that's what you're going to get. If you mess up, well, you're going to know about it. So hopefully. And yeah, so then in midpoint, so it's going to be, you're going to return an array, and then you just get to go, we haven't declared PT1 and PT2 yet, but PT1 0 plus PT2 0 divided by 2. And then I'll also include that and one more. Yep. Why not? Add parentheses the schnit out of things, but Python also usually will tell you when they are not necessary. When they're like, you just went overdose on the parentheses, you don't need them. So that's nice because I do it a lot. I'd like to double check and triple check. Because in this case, yeah, like the ones around it aren't necessary. If it was more, if I parenthesize these two, probably, well, I won't. But yeah, it'll tell you when you don't need it. So yeah, so now we return the midpoint, and then I have to include 0.1, 0.2 at the top. And then here, I'm going to just do a number. And so recursion in Python, for me, I've ran into trouble with, even when I didn't have an infinite factorial, because sometimes factorials for me are a lot worse than while loops, and I don't notice the infinite loop as easily as I do with the while loop. So I have ran into issues where I've gone way too far into a factorial. But even with factorials that definitely ended, I just knew I was going very far into a factorial, like we talked about before. They kind of nest into each other. Python has thrown me out and just been like, I can't do that many anymore. That's as far as I'll go. So I usually always try to stick away from them. It's most of the time you can get around it with a loop. So this one, so while num is greater than 1. Nope, definitely don't use those curly brackets. C++ and Python, same day. We will create a temporary variable, so I'll call it temp, and I'll set it equal to 0, and then 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
You don't have to put semicolons after everything in Python?
No, so no semicolons. It'll actually yell at you. No curly brackets. You should, though. There's like things that you have to do to avoid those. So there's no brackets around functions with this.
Yeah.
There's it kind of use your colon, and then you indent 4 lines, and then if you're going to go in between 2 functions, you leave a space. So
okay.
That's it. And sometimes, I think, yeah, and then classes are the same. We'll see those in a second, but yeah, so then that's that. And then, so you just kind of have to make sure that your indenting is correct, or else it will be mad at you. But yeah, so no semicolons. And then, so if we were to take num, and then we'll just kind of do, actually, 1 is a bad number. I mean, 0 is a bad number. We'll do 1. So then we'll do temp multiply equals num, and then we'll do num minus minus. Well, minus equals 1. All right, so then this should go through, and it should say temp, and then it will multiply temp by the number, and then it will keep doing that until temp is 1. And then when temp is 1, well, we don't really want. Probably gonna kill Opus ears. And then we don't want to multiply by 1 because it doesn't matter, and we don't want to multiply by 0, so we'll just do that. About this smaller amount of lines actually, but you know, whatever. So then we will do a while. I don't think they have do while. I don't know. Actually, I've never done a do while in this. So while choice equals, well, choice doesn't equal 0. I think they might not, and that would just be because you have, so if I said choice, I have to initialize it. Python won't, like, You can leave it ambiguous in C++, but in Python you have to set it equal to something when you do it. So then while choice doesn't equal 0, we're going to print actually print and we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 15. Calculator, very similar. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then we will also include, so this is also how you can, I could actually put it at the end here. I'll do it twice. That's how you inlines. You could also use that in C++ when it's in comments, when it's in the parentheses, similar to tab. It's just instead of T, it's an N. So, well, it's already going to do one of them. So let's do. I'll leave it. And then print like before. 1 slope. 2 midpoint, and then 3 factorial, just like before. And then we will also print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. And then this is so I have to include system because I'm going to be accessing. So we have to do that. So import. Import I actually haven't done this in a long time, so I'm gonna have to choice. I think it's what's this? How I problem solve. Input from command line Python. User input command line arguments. Let's see. Oh, this is what I was. We don't need it, so we'll use this. So let's try that. So don't even know everything. Ooh, that's gonna be a problem actually. Choice equals and then yeah, let's see how this goes. And then I'm just gonna print something out here just to mess with it because I'm questionable on it. Still in loop, and we'll see if that comes back up. All right, so let's run it, and invalid syntax. Like I said, I go too hard on these parentheses. There we go. And then let's try that. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's take these parentheses away. Oh, I did have an extra parenthesis. Yeah, let's work with those. All right, cross your fingers. We got nothing. So while choice doesn't equal 0, and then I declared choice to be 0. What?
No, you're right.
All right, so then choice, so then if I do 1, still in loop. All right, so then if I do 0, still in loop. Yeah, I know where that is. All right, so then we will just, let's see if I do this, that's a thing. No. All right, we will start a new one. We'll get out of this one. Close that. Yes. All right, so what is happening in this is choice is defined above, and then when you define it within a function, it defines its own choice. So there's a couple of ways to get around this, and let's see what I will do.
Is it getting defined inside the while?
So it's getting, so yes.
Because that looks like it's saying when it's not.
Yeah, so it's saying when it's not 0, but then when I put 0, and it still goes through, and that's because it's looking at this choice, but we have 2 choices defined. So this one is just local within the while loop, and this one is the one that it's referencing for the check in the condition. So if we were in C++, we just do int choice equals 1, and then these would be fine. But because of how they define things, global and local variables are kind of tricky. So let's see how I would do this. I could set it to a function and then keep getting that function. Let's try def choice. Then we'll just take in a choice, and then we will return choice. Will that work? So if I put in 5 and I'm just returning 5, no. So another thing to do is, let's try to call. So if you call this, then you force it to be global. I forget if you need 1 or 2, because I always try to avoid this. CD doc human cd cpp cd live cd part 2, and then python calculator.py. Yep, that seems about right. Calculator. Choice, invalid syntax, global choice. Let's try that. You suck. All right. Let's see. So we could just change it to a for loop. Yeah, let's just do that for now. For I in range 10, so you get to do it 10 times. Not ideal, but you know. So then if choice equals 1 equals 1, then we will do slow, or, that's another nice thing about this, or choice equals 2, then we will do num.1 pt1 equals pt2 equals, and then we will do print number x chord pt1 and then we'll do import pt1. Oh, actually, we'll just do that. And then that'll be pt1 dot append. Let's see if this works. Done that down. pt2 dot append. Input y, and then we will, oh, that's not right. There we go. To do then 2, 2, 2. And then we will call if choice equals 1 slope pt1 pt2 if, well, then you could use elif choice equals 2.
Do you mean there else?
No, the Python, instead of writing out else space if, they concatenate it to elif.
Oh, okay.
So midpoint, that probably means I use a capital M up here. Oh, all right. Midpoint, that might just be included. PT1, PT2, and then we will go back to that elif choice equals 3. Then do fraction. No, it's not fraction. It is factorial. Num equals input number. And then factorial, none, and then we're going to want to print all these. Answer. And then I'll show you a fun fact. That's what I was trying to get to before. Right. Oh, that's actually not going to work. Oh, the slope is, but the midpoint is not. Number 2, MD PT equals, and then we will do answer, and then it'll be boom, boom, comma, boom, boom, and then for some reason MPT MP PT 1. All right, who thinks this is not going to work? Say aye. All right, let's try it. Yep. Invalid syntax. Let's just put it in parentheses, see if that works. This is below this, right? Yep. All right. So it's getting mad about the elif. So let's just type else. Oh, because I would have needed an else at the end for a elif. Else, actually. Interesting. Let's try it. Yep. Why do? Let's try to put just an else at the bottom here. Print. Let's just try it here too. Elif. Alright, let's see. Dun dun dun. Sometimes it works. Else now is a problem. That's strange. I couldn't tell you what is going on with that. So print format, dot format. Midpoint, point 1.2. Still getting line 33. If or I don't know. So let's look for a quick solution so Elizabeth can do her thing. Python else if inbound index. Let's try it out. Line seems wrong. I don't know. So we will enter. Just put an enter at the end of these. I don't know. Let's just try it. What the hell? Oh. Parentheses, you son of a gun. So that one should work. Let's do it now. Hey! Except now the for loop's not working. So, let's see. Alright, so we input if choice equals, if choice equals 1. This is it. I will be upset. Alright, let's try it. Then I'll have to do this later, but you know. Start. Close tab, yes. Alright, so D, CD DAC, tab, CD live, CP, CD live, C part 2, Python calculator.py. Alright, well, let's see. Hey, alright, so then we'll do for what the heck? Oh my gosh, PT. And we're actually gonna have to integer it. So int, just realizing that. So if you cover something like this, then it's gonna force it, if it is an integer, to be an integer. If it's not, it'll either truncate it, or if it is a string, it will yell you. Like a long string that doesn't have any numbers. And then I'll do that for down here as well.
Do you need to do that? You need one more parenthesis on the second line of the points.
Yep. Good work, good work. 2 eyes. And then this one as well. So let's try that. Alright, so then if we go to, boop, yeah, try to run it one more time. So choice 1. So then we will do 4. No! What is it? PT2 is not defined. You know what?
I still have PR on the fourth one.
There we go. All right, guys, this is it. 3rd time's a charm. All right, so then 4, 4, 8, 8. Moving on, because I know why that happened, though. We all know why that happened. It's because of this. But you know what I'm going to do? Instead of having to change all those, we're just going to change this to an int. All right. So I really wish I knew how to kill it. We are going to close that. Close up. There, here we go. CD CPP, CD live, CD part 2. All right, so then Python calculator .py 1 4 4 8 8. Doesn't that feel good? All right, so then we'll try midpoint. We're getting gutsy now.
It shouldn't be 1 though, should it?
So because 8 minus 4 over 8 minus 4 would be 1, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't worry.
So that's jumping in.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry. There'll probably be a problem here. So, so let's do 4 again, 8 again, 8 again. Yes. Why would it work? Underscore pt2 is not defined. You know, at least it spits you out though. And that's not defined. You are right, compiler. Lovely being you.
You need an array entry after the pt2 as well in brackets.
You know. There we go. All right. Hey, you're learning though. You know. That's just speaks volumes to me. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So 4, 4, 8, 8. Yeah. All right. So let's try factorial, and then we can get the F out of this sum that we're getting. All right. None. Why would it work? You know, just why would it work? All right. So we take in a 5, and then as long as 5 is greater than 1, you know why? It'd be nice to return it back. There we go. All right, so then I will do 1. There we go. All right, cool. And I never added if it's 0, I never added something, so that's why I got the error, because it was trying to divide by undefined. So 5. 120. All right, now let's get out of this and then again. All right, so then if we, Elizabeth, do you have time to run over it, or do you want to do it?
Yeah, you can do the beginning of it.
The beginning of it? All right, cool. So then I'll stop here.
I can explain what it is.
And then I will go into, next week I'll go into an address book, and I'll try to find an easier way to loop through this and also quit it. Shouldn't be that hard. It'll probably take me 5 minutes, but I just, for some reason, think it's going to be easier. All right. And now Elizabeth is up and to show you LaTeX.
Woo-hoo.
I'm excited.
All right. Overleaf. So, Overleaf is a free thing online. It's basically like Google Docs, but for LaTeX. I'm gonna see if I get it on the first try or not. Okay. I don't remember what my password is. So.
We're good.
Probably spell it.
You don't have any numbers up here? Oh, it's never.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it's my Hamlet email address. That would, huh. You see, the problem is that it's just like automatically signed in on mine.
Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm. What password was I using over the summer? Oh. No, I hit a button because, oh no, I hit your power button, I think. That's where the end button is on my computer, and it's an ANSYS, so I thought it was going to be the same.
Don't worry. We're still up and running.
Right there, like, you see, that's the home button, and so I thought that was the end button, and that was not how it worked.
Don't worry. It's still good. Elizabeth tried to kill us. All right.
Okay, let me check on my computer. I'll see it.
What, at least what you know?
Yeah.
It means that I can pretend I remember my LaTeX password. Like a year ago.
Okay, what was it? Okay. I feel like I already did this one, but we're gonna try it.
Is that numbers in it?
No, it's this one, because I...
No, I know. Just if it doesn't work and you try like 3 times, just try to hit no.
Do you have your numbers logged?
I don't know, just hit it though. Why not? Don't turn it off.
What? Well, it shouldn't be for like the above ones. Okay, we're gonna do this next week because I don't know it. I'll figure it out what it is.
Alright, cool, no problem. And then I will probably do the other stuff next. Well, I mean, we could set up the class one. We'll set up the class.
Yeah.
For Python.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I mean, what's been working to do, you know? All right, cool. So we will add a new file, and we will call it addressbook.py. Dun, dun, dun. And then to start a class, it's the same, similar, and we'll call it person, class person, and then we will do name. We'll do a number, and then we will do a email, and then we will do init self, and then we'll do name. This dot name equals none, and then I will just use this dot name equals none. This dot email none. This is definitely a number. This should be in red, so I'm confused on why it's not. Let's try init self. That's probably what it is. Number, name, number, and email, very similar. I don't know what. Oh. This dot. Wait. Yeah. This dot is, I think, from node.js. Let's try this. Self dot name equals name. No. Bad. Yep. Dot number equals number. No. And then, ooh. Self dot email equals email. So I'll take this def out. I thought we needed it, but you know. No, yeah, I probably do. Def. It was fluid for me, so I'll just keep it. And then get name. We don't really need these because these aren't private variables, but you know, good practice. Self dot return dot name. No, you're a goon. All right. No. There we go. Def get number self return self dot number. You guessed it. Def get email self return self dot email, and then we will do def main. I'm really going to take the lazy route in about right now. All right, we're going back to calculator. Highlight from here to here. And everything looks like it's spaced correctly. That's amazing. All right, cool beans. And then we're going to change this to address book. Book. Add person. I'm just going to do, we know what it means. Add, show, all, give by name. All right, cool. So then we're going to want to take this off and just do if that's true. And then you're going to go back, and it should just get you right there. This one's going to go back. This is going to get deleted. This is going to go back. This is going to go back. All right, so then, we're going to say, we're going to delete it. So, yeah, so I'll just print nothing right now, but I'll leave it as this. We're going to run this next time. Don't run it now because it'll fail. And we'll leave this for next time because something would go wrong. I already see it happening. All right, choice, elif, and I'll just, and then if we save this, there's definitely errors. We don't have slope, midpoint, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna get rid of this one so that we know. But I mean, it's set up very similar to what we had before. There we are, and I'll go back up to the class so anyone who didn't copy that down, we could copy that down here. I'll go here. Yep, and it definitely has a thing over it. Nope, address book. How much time? So I got about 5 minutes. So similar to C++ in the main, if I wanted Zach, we could do Zach equals new. Let's try this. New person. Zach 555 and email at gmail.com. All right, and then if I want to do a long comment, I think it's oh no, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there we go. 3. Not quotes, apostrophes. The other guys. And then I wanted to print Zach get name. Let's try it. We will see. I forget if we use new or not. Use son of a gun. Yep. All right, Python address book. Not that, so tough name, number, email. All right, let's try to just do Zach. And then let's try it again. Zach is not defined. I tried to define it. You told me I couldn't. Oh, no. In itself, I named it person. Well, I did it over here, so let's check. If I see a difference. Oh, there's no new. That's what it is. All right. Equals person. There we go. Back. All right, so that's how we set it up. When we return next time, my calculator, we will kind of do the same thing that we did before, where we kind of loop through it. No, I'll leave those commented out because that goes broken. We will loop through it and kind of set it up just like it was before. So we'll do that next time. And then we'll do that for the calculator as well. Elizabeth will go over LaTeX, and then I'll probably go over, after those, we're kind of running into rollover time, so we might not have time for everything next week, but I'll try to do reading and writing to files with both C++ and Python. And what else is important? I'll try to do OpenCV on both C++ and Python, and that might cut it there. Then the one after that, not sure what is scheduled right now, but with the rollovers, we're going to do probably Qt on C++ and then tkinter on Python, along with sockets on both, and then we would be caught up, and we'll probably run into starting our own server with Node.js. So yeah, those would probably be the next schedule for the next 2 classes. We have an R class coming. I'm not sure when it would be, but whenever we can fit it in. Yeah, so that would be for next week, and I will leave you guys there. All right.